Bernard Tobin here at the Agricultural Excellence Conference in Fredericton, and the theme of the conference this year is cultivating resilience. And I don't think I've met anybody quite or as resilient or exemplifies perseverance as my guest, Brenda Howard. She is the owner-operator of Howard Vale Holsteins. Brenda, thanks for dropping by.
Oh, pleasure to be here.
Brenda, it's quite a journey you've been on. A lot of tragedy here, and you've worked through it. And here you are today on a Bridging the Gap panel, talking about farm transition and transitioning the farm to your two sons. Let's start this back in 2002. It was a tragic year. That's when your husband passed.
Yes, it was. We had just expanded our dairy farm, and we were only a month into our new facility, and we had a tragic accident, and my husband passed away. At that time, I had 3 sons. They were 16, 14, and 11. And I myself had just gone back to work after being out for 2 years from a car accident. So I went back in September, and he died in February. And my sons were very keen on farming, and so immediately I thought I'm going to do everything in my power to maintain the business for my sons till they get old enough to decide. If I was to sell it, it would be nearly impossible for them to get back into it. So within a couple of weeks of my husband's death, we came up with a plan, and my sons would do the day-to-day operation of the farm, and we hired a milker to help out because they were all in school. And I would take over the financial management, do the books, and kind of oversee the entire project as best I could. I had no experience in the dairy industry. I wasn't in business. I'm a school teacher, and after coming back from an car accident, I didn't feel I should leave my day job to go full-time working on the dairy farm because I thought that could be too taxing on my body at that time. But it was a combination of my 3 sons and myself that decided we were going to make it go as best we could.
Now, one of the things you did, as I say, with your 3 sons was interesting, a dairy advisory team, a Penn State model where I believe 3 farmers helped you out and really helped mentor the boys. Tell us about that model and how that worked.
There was a friend in the Department of Agriculture who came to me right after the death, and he said, I read this article about something at Penn State University. He said, I don't know. He said, you might be interested in this. And so I read through it, and I thought, I think that has potential for us. But I wanted to wait at least 6 months after my husband's death so that my sons would have some stability. There was a lot of fear that I was going to sell, although that wasn't in my mindset at the time. I had the fear they were taking on too much work themselves, and they had a bit of fear that I would sell. But after 6 months, I had researched it a little bit. What my friend in the Federation of Agriculture did is he gave me a list of 10 potential candidates that might take on an advisory role or that he would suggest. And so I cold called these people. I didn't know them. Some of them I heard their names, but I couldn't have put a name and face together. I called them up and I said, everybody knew our situation with the death. I called them up and I said, this is what I want to do. This is what the project looks like. Would you be interested in coming on board? And 3 for 3. My first 3 calls, I had 3 people willing to help out. And I think when they said yes, they said, I'm not really sure what we're getting into here. And they told me later, like they had no idea what sort of a situation we were in the business and how much of an issue they could be walking into. But with this dairy advisory team, I guess I'll just step back and say, when you're 16, 14, and 11 and you work with your dad, that's a different thing than you going to work one day and now you are a potential owner and you are the manager and you have to oversee the thing from top to bottom, which is basically what my sons did at an early age on the day-to-day of the farm. So everything that came up that we needed to know about, we had regular meetings with the dairy advisory team. I would set the agenda. These are our questions for the week. We would work through them, and these farmers were quite diverse, from a large farmer to a medium-sized farmer to someone who was very modest and thought everything should run debt-free, which is a tough concept, especially for us where we started and where we are today. But the dairy advisory team, we attribute them with a wealth of knowledge and the success of where we are today.
Now, talk about the success. I mean, obviously, you had 3 boys. You grew that business 3 times the size, and you continued to grow. And I guess the challenge came again, some more tragedy with one of your boys and your son passing.
I guess I'll just step back and say in 2002, we had just undergone an expansion when my husband had passed away. In 2009, we did another significant expansion, and we had moved from 45 kgs now to 129. In 2015, we underwent another expansion. I think we were around 230 kgs at that time. My youngest son had decided he was going to farm, so we were bringing him into the business. And the whole time we had been building our land base as well as our quota base. And then my youngest son, he was killed in a tragic car accident. That was a major setback. We had hoped to start, or I had hoped to start talking succession once my 3 sons had decided they were going to farm. So here we are, 2019. We are just starting to get succession plans in place for them to take over. And we started at 45 kgs, and we're now at 325, and we're farming approximately 1,000 acres. So, there's been some bumps along the road, but when people have a passion for what they're doing, it just makes it so much easier. And I've always had the mindset. The tragedies are things that have happened to us. I don't want them to become who we are.
Yeah. And you're in the process now of going through succession and defining the future here. And you talked a lot about that today in the presentation here at the conference. Let's talk about a few things you're working on. First of all, you talked about the need to fine-tune roles and responsibilities for those successors.
When we were a small farm, everybody just kind of pitched in and did everything to get the whole all of the work done and keep it going. But as you grow into a bigger farm, we might have been able to get away with that at 80 or 100 kgs. But now that we're at 325 kgs, we really felt the need that we have to choose an area. We have to be the primary person in that area. Not that we don't consult with the others, but somebody has to make sure that that job gets finished. And if we all try to do a little bit of everything, nothing really gets our full attention. So dividing our roles and responsibilities, not that we won't change those down the road and have people change areas of expertise, that's open, but this is what we've decided, and it's really helping us move forward. Everyone gets the information, but one person may be doing all the investigation and that before we have a team meeting to make decisions.
You also talked about, I guess, coaching. Coaching is so important. You've tapped into coaching over the years. You need partners, and they're important, and especially understanding human relations. That communication, that human relations is so important.
We worked with a consultant this summer as we started our succession, we put it on the table, let's say. And the consultants have been, to me, they're a valuable asset because family and business can be a very good combination, but sometimes families say things without a filter, which can be damaging to family relations or business relations. When you bring an expert in or a consultant who is a specialist in their area, they just help you move forward on that process. And I always thought our communication could improve, and it was almost comforting to find that 90% of businesses in Canada are family-owned, and of those 90% of the businesses, they usually fail by the third generation, and we are on our fifth, so we're pleased with that. And the biggest downfall in businesses is human relations. So I guess we're no different than anyone else. It's something you really have to work at, and man, it makes it so much easier when you really get that communication rolling well.
You talked about, that need for coaching, that need for mentoring, strengthening a business culture. You also mentioned it's important to teach your sons to delegate and manage effectively.
Transition plans are tentatively in 2022, which will be 20 years after we took over, that we will transition the business to my sons. So we're trying to get them prepared for that. And we have a relatively big farm, and we have foreign workers helping us out. But more and more, as I step away, my sons are going to need to take on more of the things I do. They are already busy, so in order to allow more time for management issues, they are going to have to learn to delegate more, which is a tough thing. They really enjoy what they're doing, but their role is just going to transition some, and they're definitely going to be hands-on, but management at every level. What they're currently doing, they are making some changes to make us as profitable as we can be, optimizing our success. And as I step away, there will be more financial management that they will be overseeing.
You're going to step away from the farm. You recently retired after 34 years of teaching.
Yes.
One last piece of, or sage piece of advice that you would give any farmer who's listening about, one of the things that, as I say, you think is so important to being successful in, obviously your journey and succession.
I would say for us, and probably I would suggest it for others as well, I think there's value in getting coaching, whether that coaching be a consultant or whatever form that might take. The opportunities to learn are plentiful, and I think you need to hire some experts in their field. Work on a project, have someone help you with that. When you get a good grasp of how that's going, move on to another project. If it means bringing a different consultant in, I think the payback will be huge. So as we're coming towards my time of transitioning, my goal was to make sure that I didn't maintain a leadership role when I was 80 years old. Some people hang on to the business too long, I feel, and in order for my sons to develop, I wanted to make sure that we transitioned it when they were relatively young. For me, I'm going to move out of the role I'm in. I don't know what the future looks like. I will probably sit on some type of advisory or board of directors down the road. I had the final workings of it aren't there. I'll be dealing with the accountant as to whether I keep shares. I enjoy what I do, and I enjoy where the progress and success from where we were to where we are now. I just want to make sure I don't stand in the way of the potential growth of my sons. But yeah, it's been challenging. It hasn't been all kumbaya, but for the most part, I have enjoyed it.
Brenda, it's been an incredible journey. I think on behalf of all our listeners, I want to thank you for sharing it.
Thank you very much.